Parenting Live. I am your host, Yashika Foster. Listen, y'all know I'm a one woman show. And so, because I am a one woman show, I got to make sure that I am live. So, when you come into the room, as you come into the room, let me know that you guys are coming into the room so I can say hello and welcome. And while you're coming in here, if this is your first time here, introduce yourself. Introduce yourself. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. All right. Don't be shy. Introduce yourself and let me know. Say, hey, Yashika, I'm here, girl. Hey, Yashika, I am watching you, girl. I am here. Okay. Let me make sure. So, you listen, I am live. I can hear myself. This is the part of this platform where I get to go live without scripting, without me editing, without me taking out some things because I don't think I should say that, or without me saying, well, let me think about what I say before I say it. Nope. Hood Parenting Live, okay, is what I do on Sundays. Now, today, I will say I'm going a little bit later because I had to make a little bit of an adjustment to my schedule because my daughter she had something going on at church today, and that started at 6, and so I had to adjust this into 6:30. But nevertheless, we are here, and I'm still going to give you this good information, y'all. I am still going to give you this good information. And just so you know, if Hood Parenting Live this is the first time you've here, this particular episode or this segment, when I go live on a Sunday, for me, this is my raw space. This is my real conversations. This is the part where I'm putting out jewels that we can help, to create legacy, to break some of these generational curses and generational traumas that we notice that we're passing on from generation to generation. And so here on Hood Parenting Live, I just really just go and cover all topics. I cover topics such as parenting. I cover topics such as parenting on empty, apologizing to your kids, teaching them the things that you were never taught, and then relearning, right? Relearning things that maybe you were taught and you now recognize that those things may not have been the best way in which to do things. And I know that I find myself doing it a lot. And when I say that about us relearning things, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything that I learned or everything that I'm relearning is things that I got from my parents or my parents, however you want to put it. These are things that I may have even told myself through process of elimination, right? And so, like, for example, okay, I'm gonna go a little bit of real deep for you. There's this little saying that often goes, it's better to have a piece of a man than not a man at all. Okay. Now, when we talk about stuff like that, I've heard people say that throughout my life, but I didn't get that from my mama. Okay. You just hear things along the way and then you pick them up. And so you kind of adopt these ideas about what right's supposed to look like or how it is that you're supposed to live your life in terms of what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Right. I don't know, but I just know that when I say that about things, about unlearning things, I just wanted to be clear that everything that we learn, we don't get it from our parents, right? We don't get everything that we learn from our parents. We get it from the streets. We get some things from the streets. We get some things from like just listening, overhearing conversations, or listen to things that we don't have no business listening to because we weren't even part of the conversation. And so because of that, we pick up things along the way, right? We pick up things along the way. I'm trying to find, okay, there it is. We pick up things along the way, right? And so this is what I mean when I say we're putting down some of those things. We're unlearning some of these things, okay? Today, we are talking about stop parenting from your fears and start parenting from your vision. Let me say that again. Stop parenting from your fears and start parenting from your vision. Listen, I know for myself, this is something that I've seen a lot in my own family. Especially when I had my boys. When I had my boys, for me, it was one of those things that I would think about how life could be. Because although I was a child myself, I still saw how my mother differentiate between what she said to my brother and how she and what she said to me. I also know that there were certain rules or certain things that my brother can do that I couldn't do, and he was younger than me. And so I didn't understand that, right? Until I had boys of my own, right? And then once I had boys of my own, and then I had, I was a stepmom, I had bonus daughters. I started noticing how there were things that I didn't go for from my daughters that I did from my boys. You know what I mean? And I think it was because of the fact that by them being girls, I knew the potential outcome because I'm a girl myself. And so when they're out there doing things, it was almost like as if I was looking at them like, I know what could happen to you if you go down this route, especially being a girl. And so with my boys, I don't think I necessarily raised them so much from a place of fear, but I definitely know that a lot of what I taught them or the things that I said to them were things that I saw that my mother said to my brother, or ways in which my mother was trying to, instill certain things into my brother. Okay. And so when we talk about stop parenting from our fears and start parenting from our vision. Fear-based parenting sounds like this. This is what you hear when you hear people talk about, when we're raising our kids from our fear. We'll say things like, I don't want my child to make the same mistakes that I made. Or you'll say things like, the world is so dangerous, and so I just want to keep them here, and I don't want to, I don't want to let them out. Or, I'm going to make sure I discipline them harshly, because if they don't, then I'm going to lose them to the world. Those are things that we often hear people say that are parenting from a place of fear as opposed to a place of vision, right? In other words, how you see parenting for yourself and how you believe parenting should be from your perspective. One thing I will say about parenting, and I want to make this very clear, there's no one size fit all. There's not. There's no one size fit all. There's no one child fits all mode of parenting. There's no one parent that fits all mode of parenting. Like, there's nothing. Whatever parent you get, you're going to get a different child. Whatever child you get, you're going to get a different parent. And it's going to go on. I mean, I don't care if you got 5 kids that are all the same gender, that both have the same parents. Okay. They could have been born on the same day, 1 year apart from each other. You could have had a child born October the 1st, 1990, October the 1st, 1991, all the way up to October the 1st, 1995. Okay. 5 children, same date. Those kids are all still going to have a different personality. Now, will they have some things about themselves that are different? Absolutely. But in terms of parenting them and the way you parent those children, each one of them will require a little bit something different, because we are people at the end of the day. We are all people at the end of the day. And because we are all people at the end of the day, we cannot approach every situation in life as the same. And parenting is no different. We can't say, okay, well, I've raised 5 kids this before, so I'm going to raise. Let me tell you something. I'm raising a daughter right now that is a generation alpha. Now, my oldest children are millennials. Okay, so you're talking about millennials, Gen Zs, and then Gen Alphas. So in other words, there's a whole nother generation in between my oldest children and my youngest child. There's another generation there, which is my youngest son, who's only 22. And so when I think about that, I'm like, you know what? No wonder I got a wine subscription. As a matter of fact, let me get my wine, because I didn't put it too far away from me. Okay. So when we talk about parenting from fear as opposed to parenting from vision, when we'll hear these things in parents, we'll hear these things, right? Because we're thinking about, what they did or what I did or how I turned out or whatever, or you're like, okay, I want to make sure that this doesn't happen. Because I know I watched my mother raise us in fear, right? It wasn't that it was like that's all she knew. She didn't know how to raise us any other way but in fear. Her thing was, I already know these things can happen. And so let me make sure that I keep you in this realm where you don't make these mistakes. And unfortunately, my brother and I, we made some of the same mistakes. Now, once we got to a certain level of understanding of life, yes, we're going to make mistakes that my mother didn't make before. We're going to encounter things that maybe she didn't have directions to. But what I do know is that even still, that fear that she put in us, or to, I won't call it a fear, it'll be those lessons that she put in us. It made us second guess when we did go out and do things, because although it wasn't the same, we also knew that our mother had taught us enough foundational skills and enough problem solving and enough alertness in this world that, hey, this looks like danger. So because this looks like danger, I'm not going to do it, or I'm going to go the other way. And so when we talk about raising our kids from fear, these are some of the things that fear-based parenting equals to reactional parenting. So you punish, you restrict, or you silence because you're afraid. Okay, those are fear-based parenting, right? As opposed to because those type of parenting are also reactionary parenting. In other words, you're not. It's like when they say you don't put the horse before the cart or something like that, right? That's pretty much what that means. In other words, instead of us addressing an issue with our child, we choose to say, you know what? Because you did this, you're punished. I don't want to talk about it because we don't even want to talk about it. Like it's not, it's off limits. Those type of things, when we do those type of things with our children, like when we say, okay, we're not going to talk about it, we're going to avoid it because we're afraid to talk about certain things. What that does is that it ends up our kids going out and finding out for themselves what it is that they were curious about, what it is that they got in trouble for the first place about, because that's what it was, pure curiosity that got them there anyway. Okay. So a lot of times kids end up carrying your fears instead of their own wisdom, because in their mind, if I do this, I'm going to be punished. I don't know why I'm going to be punished. All I know is that I shouldn't do it. Instead of us taking the time to say, okay, here's the thing. And I'm going to give you an example. When I talked to my bonus daughters, because they were older than my sons, right? They were much old. They were, a few years older. So of course they hit puberty before the boys hit puberty. And so when I talked to my daughters about, going out here and being sexually active, I did not talk to them from a place of don't do it. And if you do it, this is what's going to happen. Because that was the conversation that I got. I got a conversation of, if you don't go out here and do it, and if you do it, if you should happen to get pregnant, you're going to be out here in the streets and you're going to be on your own because you ain't bringing no baby up in here. So that was very much fear driven conversation. Why? Because my mother got pregnant with me at 15. And so for her, that was all she knew. She didn't know anything else. It wasn't there's a possibility that, maybe if you do this, maybe there's a way to protect yourself. Or how about I talk to you about why you shouldn't do it? And so I don't know if it was the right way or the wrong way. But what I do know is that when it was time for me to talk to my bonus daughters about this, I took it from the approach of, once you give this away, this is what it is. Now, on top of that, let me tell you what happens after. See, you think that when you give this away to this special boy, that he's going to be madly in love with you, that you guys are going to live happily ever after, and you're going to have 2.5 dogs and a white picket fence and a house and all that. You're going to have Sunday dinner and y'all going to sit around the fireplace and roast marshmallows and take vacations to California, to Disneyland. Like, I know that's what you dream about. I know that's what you think it's going to be, but let me tell you what's going to happen. What's probably going to happen more than likely is that if you do something with him and you sneak and do something with him on a Friday or a Saturday of one week, within a week or two, he going to be up in another girl's face. Okay. So let me tell you how that's going to make you feel right now. Here's the possibility. There's a small chance, maybe 1 to 5% chance that he may not do those things. All right. But there's a 95 to 99% possibility that he will. And so let me tell you now how that's going to make you feel. Let me tell you now what happens. Let me tell you now what could possibly happen during that interaction between you and him. And so that is the way that I talk to them about sex. Simply because I didn't want to say don't do it because because it's like then they become shameful, right? Then they become anytime I mention anything about it, it's automatic shut down. So then they start turning elsewhere. They'll go to the internet, they'll go to friends, they'll go to wherever they need to go in order to fill in the pieces that we are too afraid to tell them. All right. And so when it comes to that, when it comes to fear-based parenting, also remember that fear-based parenting is also equivalent to reactionary parenting. And kids, sometimes they won't even revisit it anymore. If they feel like they've been shut down one way and say, okay, you don't want to talk about this, they're not even going to revisit it 9 times out of 10 because they feel that what's the use? You're going to shut them down or that's something that you don't want to talk about. And so they're going to go elsewhere for it. Okay. So what is vision-based parenting? Vision-based parenting is equal to legacy parenting. In other words, this is the approach that we use in order to help build legacies. All right. And so the way you do it is you guide them towards the life you want them to build. You guide them towards the life you want them to build. If you want them to be financially stable and morally stable and ethically stable and respectful to people and just all the things that you want them to do, these are the things you talk to them about. These are the things that you sit down and you discuss. These are the things that you emulate. This is the way that you live your life, because what you don't talk to them about, they're going to fill in the pieces everywhere else. And whatever you don't display, they're going to also fill in the pieces somewhere else. So if you're one of them parents that don't talk about these things and you don't do any of these things over here, then they're going to fill in those things over there somewhere else. And it's not always going to be the way you want them to. And so that's why when it comes to parenting, it's like I tell my kids, no subject is off limits. And trust me, I've had some conversations that, hey, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was my older 4 children. It was a lot. It was a lot, especially with that third boy. Now my fourth child, my second boy, his conversations was a lot because he didn't hold back nothing. Okay, when I tell you he didn't hold back nothing, he didn't hold back nothing. And so some of it I had to clutch my pearls. Okay. Some of it I had to clutch my pearls, but at the same time, I'm glad that he felt comfortable enough to talk to me about those things. All right. And then another thing about vision-based parenting that equates to legacy parenting is that instead of don't do what I did, we can also tell them it becomes here's how you can go further than me. So let's replace that vocabulary with that vocabulary. Instead of telling our children, don't do this because this is what I did, let's just say listen, if you do things this way, this is how you can go further than me. And I know for me, this is what I tell my children all the time. Listen, when it comes to these mistakes down here, like I've done these things already. I've done these mistakes. I've reached, listen, I even showed us how to get out of the hood. Okay. When it comes to my kids, I'm like, listen, I got us out of the hood. I was the first one to get us out of the hood. So if I got us out the hood, I don't need you to go back to the hood. Okay, because see, I already did that. And so that's the same way it is when it comes to the way that we teach our children and the things that we say to them. I want my kids to go further than me. So because I want them to go further than me, all the things that I knew that I needed, whether it was education, whether it was foundational stuff, no matter what it was, I tried to make sure that they had it or had a way to get the resources that they needed. Now, I'm not going to say that they used it all. Lord knows I'm not going to say that they didn't make no mistakes, okay? Because you name it, they did it, honey. You name it, they did it, okay? I even had one to get married at 18, okay? I'll tell y'all that story another day. Mm-hmm. I had one to get pregnant at 17. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they still made the mistakes. They still made the mistakes. But at the same time, I also know that foundationally, they had those things. And they understood why, if you do it this way, what's going to happen. They also understood that by you doing this, although you think that, okay, if I only do this, this will happen. Sometimes you bite off more than you can chew. Sometimes things happen and you don't know the third and fourth order of effect because of that one thing you chose to do. And that's the thing about life. You can't predict everything. And that's why it's very, very careful about that's why it's very, very important that you are careful about the things that you do. How to shift. In terms of parenting, when we want to stop parenting from fear and start parenting from a place of vision, how do we shift? We first shift by identifying the trigger. In other words, what is the one thing for you that triggers you to go into a fearful place in which you're telling your kids, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and here's why, right? Could it be money? Could it be safety? Could it be relationships? Okay, honey, because I think for all those, for me, those are areas that I can go from 0 to 100 on, but it's also areas of life that I know that are important and it's so multi-layered, right? When you talk about money, when you talk about relationships, and when you talk about just feeling safe, that has so many layers to it. And so each child are going to have their own definition of what each is. And that's one of the things that we have to also ask them sometimes is like, you know what? Define this for me. When you think about this life or when you think about this thing over here, how does that look for you? What does these things look like for you? And you'll be surprised sometimes of what they say to you. And then also it'll give you an idea to say, okay, I think they're picking this up for me. So because they're picking this up for me, how do I get them to see there's no one way to look at this? And so having that communication with your children is very, very much the way to do so. But we must start by identifying what is our trigger. And when we know what our trigger is, then we can get ahead of it. And then that way we can have better conversations with our kids and we can help them to understand. And then we can learn to raise them or parent them from a place of vision as opposed to a place of fear. Another way to shift, replace your reactive words with intentional guidance. And so in other words, it's not because I said so, this is why I want you to do it this way, not because I said so, right? What do you say when they do things? Okay, instead of you saying because I said so, how about you replace it with the reason why this is not healthy for you, or the reason why this is something you shouldn't do, or consider this as an alternative instead of you doing that. Those are ways in which we can have conversations. Now, I'm not saying that talk like that gonna come instant. I'm not even saying that you're gonna pick it up on the first try because I'm telling you, my kids, baby, they might get some colorful languages from time to time, especially them grown ones, okay? Them grown ones, okay? They get some colorful language sometimes, and I'm just like, listen, I don't know what else to tell you. What else do you want me to tell you? Because see, here's the thing, you already knew. You already knew what you was doing before you did it because why? I didn't already told you, but no, you went out there and did it anyway. Now you're behind got to suffer the consequences, okay? All right, because I had already told you. I'd already told you that I did this. All right. Now, instead of us talking to them like this, find a way to say, listen, I understand. I knew I understand that even our grown children, I understand that there was some things that you wasn't sure about, you weren't clear about. You could have came to me next time. I hope that you do. So now let's figure out a way for you to get through this. You're going to figure this out for yourself. You know what I mean? I'm here for you in support, but you got to figure this out for yourself. And that's how you handle your adult children. Okay. They are adults for a reason. Okay. Okay. All right. That's how you shift. Now, and also you create a vision statement for your family. What do you want your vision statement for your family to be? It can be the family that prays together, stays together. It can be anything, right? Whatever you want for your family, you create a vision statement for your family. Then that way, it's like an empowering word, right? It's like something empowering. And when you do that, it'll give them like a foundation. It'll give them like a foundation, right? Like they know this. They'll always remember that. They'll come back to it, right? So when we think about parenting from fear as opposed to parenting from our vision, when we break cycles, we stop handing down fears and we start handing down visions, right? When we start parenting from a place of vision as opposed to fear. Listen, y'all, Hood Parenting Live for me is my opportunity to really just talk to you guys and tell you guys like the raw of life and living. One thing I do know, no matter what my paper tell me, no matter what my script tell me, what I do know is this: parenting is not easy, but it's rewarding at the same time. No matter what, it's not easy, but it's rewarding. What I know about children is that kids are going to do what they want to do regardless. They're going to be who they're going to be regardless. But us as parents have to understand that when we do parent, we have to continuously work on ourselves because there are things that we are still battling. I don't care how picture perfect your life was as a child or whatever. There are still things that we battle as individuals, as humans, that sometimes we will pass it on to our kids, and we have to really be cognizant of that because it can be something that's damaging to them and we don't even recognize it for ourselves. All right. And so, listen, I don't know who this is for, but I hope this helps somebody. And this is your first time here on Hood Parenting Live. Listen, let me know that you were here. Drop a comment below. Let me know if you get something from this video. And if you find it to be inclined to do so, go ahead and subscribe and turn on your notifications. So when I do go live or drop a video or anything like that, you'll know that I do. Okay. And so listen, this has been great. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. I'm gonna go pick up this girl because she had Saturday, what is it? They had what was it called? Youth in Motion or something like that. I don't know, but y'all know if y'all go catch me out on Facebook or Instagram, you will see that my daughter was expelled from school. And so because she's been expelled for 3 days, okay, she been at home with me. Okay, but y'all know God got a sense of humor. God got a sense of humor because y'all know I'm too old for this. That's why I got a wine subscription. All right, y'all. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.